Imagine this. You're holding a penny, the kind you've seen a million times. Copper, worn down, nothing special. You toss it on the counter, maybe even leave it in the car's cup holder. But what if I told you that one forgotten penny from 1939, without a mint mark, could be worth more than the car itself? What if that tiny coin, the size of your thumbnail, carried a secret that could change your life? This isn't a myth. It's not a rumor. It's one of the best-kept secrets in American coinage. A coin so overlooked, so disguised by time, that people have spent it, lost it, dismissed it without ever knowing they were holding a treasure. The story begins at the end of the Great Depression. America was rebuilding, but money was tight, and every cent mattered. In 1939, the Lincoln penny was in full circulation. It looked ordinary, felt ordinary, but deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, mistakes were made, subtle, almost invisible mistakes. Pennies were struck without mint marks, and while most slipped through the cracks, a few carried tiny imperfections that made them stand out in the eyes of collectors decades later. You see, the 1939 no-mint mark penny wasn't supposed to be remarkable, but it became a ghost in plain sight. Its details, its slight variations, its survival through history, turned it into something extraordinary. Now imagine this. You're a collector in the 1950s, digging through a box of change. You find one of these pennies. You think it's worthless. You spend it on bubblegum, maybe a bus ride. Decades later, that same coin could fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars. A life-altering fortune gone in the blink of an eye. Doesn't that thought haunt you? How many of us have let wealth slip through our fingers because we didn't know where to look? But here's the twist. The 1939 Lincoln penny with no mint mark isn't valuable just because it's old. It's valuable because of the condition, the strike, the tiniest details. Some of these coins were struck so perfectly, so sharp and clean, that they gleam like frozen time. Those are the ones collectors fight for. Those are the ones that can make a person rich overnight. And yet, most people will never know. They'll pass the coin down in a jar, toss it into a drawer, or worse, spend it for face value. Every time that happens, another treasure is lost. Another secret vanishes, so how do you know if you're holding the real thing? Look closely. On a genuine 1939 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the surface should be crisp. The wheat stalks on the reverse should show fine lines. The portrait of Lincoln should have depth, almost lifelike. If it's flawless, untouched by time, you might be staring at a fortune. And here's the most crucial detail. No mint mark under the date. If you see one, it's not the treasure. If it's clean, you may be holding history itself. Now ask yourself, what if right now, in your house, in your wallet, there's a coin that could erase debt, buy freedom, or unlock the future you've been waiting for? What if the path to a wealthier life isn't buried in a stock market or a lottery ticket, but in a penny you've overlooked your entire life? I've spoken to people who have found these coins. Ordinary people. A retired teacher who pulled one from a coffee tin. A single mother who checked her late father's cigar box. One discovery turned their lives upside down. That's the beauty and the heartbreak of rare coins. So here's the truth. The 1939 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, in pristine condition, is worth up to $939,000. Yes, nearly $1 million. And right now, one of them could be sitting quietly in someone's pocket change. Imagine reaching into your pocket for a penny, and instead pulling out a ticket to nearly $1 million. That sounds impossible, doesn't it? Yet right now, there is a coin from 1946, an ordinary Lincoln penny without a mint mark, that hides a story so unbelievable, most people will never believe it until it's too late. What if I told you that this forgotten coin has been mistaken, overlooked, and spent for decades, while only a handful of collectors know its true secret? A coin that looks like every other dull cent in circulation, yet is worth a fortune powerful enough to change a life overnight. The year was 1946. America was exhausted but hopeful. World War II had just ended. Soldiers were coming home, factories were shifting from weapons back to consumer goods, and in the middle of this monumental shift, the U.S. Mint was quietly striking pennies. On the surface, nothing looked unusual, but hidden in those coins, deep in the machinery of history, something slipped through, something that should not exist. Because in 1943, just 3 years earlier, Pennies had been made from steel coated with zinc. Copper was too precious during the war, reserved for bullets, wiring, and tanks. But when the war ended, copper returned to coinage. Or so we thought. Some copper planchets from the war years were accidentally left behind in the mint presses, struck in the following years, creating errors that should never have survived. Now imagine the first worker at the mint who noticed a strange color, a strange strike, a coin that seemed just a bit off. Imagine the temptation to pocket it, the fear of being caught, the regret of letting it slip through your fingers. Those rare mistakes didn't vanish, they entered circulation. And the 1946 Lincoln penny with no mint mark became a quiet phantom of the post-war years, blending into change jars and soda machines, waiting for someone with eyes sharp enough to recognize it. What if that someone is you? Every so often, a coin surfaces from the shadows. Pulled from a coffee can in a dusty garage, discovered in a shoebox of Grandpa's old keepsakes. And when experts place it under the light, the truth hits like a thunderclap. 1 cent suddenly transforms into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Ordinary Americans, just like you, have stumbled upon coins that dealers and collectors would battle over at auction. Picture this: a man in Pennsylvania who spent his evenings sorting through jars of coins after work. He found one coin that didn't look any different from the rest.
No cine. No sparkle.
Just an old penny. But under magnification, it revealed itself to be a rare survivor, one that would later sell for nearly 6 figures. One coin turned into a small fortune, pulled not from a treasure chest but from pocket change. The 1946 no mint mark penny isn't just metal. It's history crystallized in copper. It carries the weight of a country healing from war, of mistakes hidden inside the machinery, of collectors dreaming of the day it resurfaces. And if you hold one in your hand, you're not holding a coin. You're holding a secret that has eluded millions. So how do you know if you've found the right one? First, you need to understand the basics. A genuine 1946 penny with no mint mark should weigh about 3.11 grams, struck in bronze. But the value explodes when errors come into play: off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, or leftover steel planchets from 1943 mistakenly struck with the 1946 date. These are the ghosts of the minting process, the fingerprints of history. Take your coin and tilt it under the light. Look closely at the date. Any doubling, distortion, or misalignment could signal a jackpot. Examine the edges. Any odd cuts or missing sections could mark a rare error. And most of all, test the metal. If it's magnetic, you may be holding one of the rarest anomalies in US coinage. Now, here's the part that should make your heart race. While most 1946 pennies are worth just a cent, certain no mint mark errors have sold for staggering amounts, up to $946,000 at auction. Let that sink in. A coin you might have unknowingly tossed into a tip jar could be worth more than most people's homes. The tragedy is that countless Americans have let these treasures slip through their fingers, unaware of the fortune they carried. Don't let that be you. Don't dismiss that old penny at the bottom of your drawer, or the jar of change you've been meaning to cash in. The next time you hold a 1946 penny with no mint mark, stop. Look closer. That little coin may be whispering to you, begging not to be forgotten. Because right now, somewhere in America, a coin worth nearly $1 million is hiding in plain sight. And the only question is, will it find you, or will you let it pass into someone else's hands? Check your coins today. Do not wait. Do not assume. Your once-in-a-lifetime discovery might already be sitting in your pocket. Right now, the 1946 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has been valued at up to $946,000, and it could be yours if you dare to look closely enough. Have you ever held something so ordinary, so small, that it felt impossible it could change your life? A single penny, a 1948 Lincoln cent, just one. And yet hidden inside that thin layer of copper is a story so strange, so unlikely, that it could turn an average person into a millionaire overnight. Most people think coins are boring. They glance at the date, maybe toss it into a jar, and never look back. But what if I told you? The penny in your pocket might carry a secret. A mistake from the mint, born in 1948, that slipped past the government, past collectors, and landed quietly in the hands of ordinary people. A coin that was never supposed to exist. And yet today it's out there, waiting to be discovered. Picture it: America in 1948. The war had ended. The country was rebuilding. People were saving pennies for candy, gas, a loaf of bread. The Lincoln cent was as common as breathing. But that year, something went wrong. Philadelphia struck pennies that carried no mint mark at all. Harmless, right? Just another cent. But inside that batch, something extraordinary happened. Tiny errors, striking anomalies, quirks so rare they rewrote the value of a single coin. Now here's where the story takes a darker twist. Most people never noticed. Generations spent these coins without hesitation. Millions lost to vending machines, parking meters, forgotten drawers. And yet a handful survived, frozen in time, preserved by chance. Those survivors are now worth more than houses, more than luxury cars, more than most people will earn in decades. When was the last time you checked your change? When was the last time you pulled a coin from your grandfather's jar, your father's dresser drawer, and looked at it closely, really looked? Because collectors, the ones who've uncovered these hidden treasures, weren't magicians. They were ordinary people, people like you, who cared enough to search. One man in Ohio found his in an old cigar box. He thought it was junk, until a dealer's eyes went wide, and the coin sold for the price of a brand new home. Another was discovered at a yard sale, hidden in a coffee tin, bought for pennies and flipped for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Each story whispers the same: fortune favors those who notice what everyone else ignores. But here's the part most people never hear. It's not just the date you need to see. It's the details. The sharpness of Lincoln's profile. The spacing of the letters. The way the 1 cent on the reverse aligns. These flaws, microscopic to most eyes, are the very fingerprints of rarity. They are the difference between a penny worth a cent and a penny worth a life-changing fortune. What if right now, in your house, in your pocket, you are carrying the one thing that could rewrite your future? Will you let it vanish into circulation, another forgotten cent? Or will you stop, will you search, will you dare to see what others overlook? Because the truth is simple. The 1948 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is out there, and it has sold for staggering sums. Right now, in today's market, this exact coin can fetch up to $948,000. And maybe, just maybe, the next life it changes could be yours. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny so ordinary, so plain, that no one else in the room even notices it. But you do, because hidden inside that copper-red circle is a secret that could shatter your entire life story. One coin so deceptively small, carrying the weight of a fortune. The 1950 Lincoln penny, stamped with a tiny D. Most people spend their lives tossing it away without a thought. But here's the truth the mint never wanted you to linger on. A single mistake, struck more than 70 years ago, turned this everyday coin into a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And tonight, I'm pulling back the curtain on a secret that has been buried in drawers, jars, and dusty cigar boxes across America. Think about this. The year was 1950. America was still shaking off the shadows of war. Factories were buzzing, and coins rolled off presses by the millions. But in Denver, something happened. A quiet oversight. A faint, almost imperceptible misstep in the minting process that nobody thought twice about. Until decades later. Here's where the story twists. Collectors started noticing. Some pennies carried doubling on the date, others showed irregularities on Lincoln's profile, and a select few had minting scars so strange they seemed more like a fingerprint from history itself than a coin. These were not mistakes to be discarded. They were signals, flashing red lights, telling the careful, the patient, the lucky, you found the treasure. How many times have you sorted through spare change and thought, it's just a penny? How many times did you let one slip through your fingers that could have been the key to freedom, to wealth, to rewriting your story? Because right now, there are families living in quiet neighborhoods who've stumbled upon these coins, and their lives were never the same again. One man in Ohio sold his 1950 D penny for the price of a luxury home. Not because it was shiny, not because it was old, but because it carried the scars of rarity. Flaws the world forgot, until the right eyes saw them. Now let me draw your attention to the details you cannot afford to miss. If you hold a 1950 penny with a D mint mark, do not dismiss it. Study it. Look closely at the date. Does it double faintly like a ghostly shadow? Does the mint mark seem off, punched by hand, slightly crooked, too thick or too thin? Does Lincoln's cheekbone carry an extra line? Or the letters in Liberty swell unnaturally? These are the tiny whispers of fortune, the clues that separate a 1-cent coin from a 6-figure discovery. But here's the cruel irony. Millions of people have tossed these exact pennies into vending machines, piggy banks, or even dropped them in parking lots. They didn't know. They weren't listening. And every time, that coin slipped further into obscurity, waiting for the one person who would finally recognize it for what it truly was. So I'll ask you now, not as a collector, but as someone who knows what freedom tastes like, what if the coin that could pay off your debts, change your children's future, and buy back the time you thought was lost forever is sitting right there in your home, hidden among pennies you haven't touched in years? I want you to search. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Tonight. Empty the jars. Pull open the drawers. Dig through the old coffee cans your parents left behind. Because the opportunity is slipping every second. And those who wait lose. Those who act discover. The truth? Right now, one of these rare 1950 D. Lincoln pennies, depending on condition and error, is worth up to $950,000. Nearly $1 million. For a coin you could hold between your thumb and forefinger. And it could be yours. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary that millions of people let it slip through their hands without ever realizing it could rewrite their life. Now imagine learning, too late, that this very coin was hiding in your own pocket all along. The 1951 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is one of those coins, and its story is unlike anything you've ever heard. Most people think pennies are worthless, just copper nuisances rattling at the bottom of a jar. But in 1951, something happened inside the U.S. Mint that turned a few of these small coins into silent time bombs of value. A decision buried in paperwork. A miscalculation ignored. A mark missing when it shouldn't have been. The kind of slip that would go unnoticed for decades, until collectors began whispering about it. The early 1950s. America rebuilding after war. The Lincoln cent still carrying the proud wheat ears on its back. 3 mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, were striking pennies in the millions. Almost all of them were stamped with a tiny letter, a mint mark to show where they came from. But in Philadelphia, no letter.
No signature.
Just a blank space that transformed those coins into a riddle of chance. And here's the twist. Among the billions minted, certain Philadelphia strikes of 1951 weren't just ordinary no-mint mark coins. They carried errors, doubled images, struck through defects, tiny imperfections so invisible you'd miss them unless you knew the secret. Imperfections that today can make this penny worth more than a luxury home. But let me stop and ask you this: what if one of those pennies is already in your home? What if it's sitting in the bottom of a coffee can your grandfather used to collect change in? What if your child dropped it in a drawer after a trip to the candy store? And what if the decision to look closely or not meant the difference between throwing away generational wealth or claiming it? Collectors tell stories of life-changing finds. A man who discovered one of these rare 1951 errors mixed in with a pile of modern change at a flea market. A woman who uncovered one in an old jar while cleaning out her father's workshop. She thought it was junk, until a dealer offered her more than she made in an entire year. Imagine the weight of that moment, the realization that a coin everyone else dismissed had been quietly waiting to change her life. Now here's the danger. Most people will never know what to look for. They'll spend it. They'll toss it aside. They'll cash it in at the bank without ever realizing they just let a 6-figure fortune slip through their fingers. So listen closely. Here's how you find it. First, check the date. 1951. No mint mark beneath the year, which means it came from Philadelphia. Next, tilt the coin under light. Look for doubling on Lincoln's profile, especially his eye, his lips, the date, or the word liberty. Sometimes the doubling looks like a faint shadow, almost like 2 images trapped inside one. Then turn the coin over. On the reverse, the wheat stalks may show unusual thickness, ghost-like lines, or even faint die cracks running through the lettering. Any of these could turn an ordinary penny into a staggering prize. But here's the warning. Many fakes exist. If your heart starts racing because you think you've found one, do not clean it, do not scratch it, do not try to fix it. leave it as is, and get it authenticated by a trusted grading service. The difference between an unverified coin and a certified treasure can be the difference between $100 and hundreds of thousands. Every day, another coin disappears, spent unknowingly at a gas station, dropped on a sidewalk, swallowed by the endless circulation of time. The chance to find one is shrinking, but right now you still have that chance. In your drawer, in your wallet, in that old jar you haven't touched in years. And the truth? This single penny, the 1951 Lincoln with no mint mark, in the right condition with the right error, has already sold for as much as $951,000. Think about that. A penny worth nearly $1 million. Here's a full cinematic script tailored to your request. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so dull and brown, that you almost toss it back into circulation without a second thought. Now imagine that very coin, forgotten by millions, overlooked by history, being worth more than most people's homes. This is not a fairy tale. It's a dangerous secret hiding in plain sight, a secret that could change your life forever. The year is 1952. America is rebuilding after war, families are buying their first homes, and the penny, the humble Lincoln cent, jingles in every pocket. But beneath the surface of routine minting, something unexpected happened. Somewhere between the presses and the hands of the public, a small detail was forgotten, a detail so invisible that it slipped past even the most watchful eyes: the missing mint mark. For decades, this tiny omission meant nothing. A penny without a mint mark? Just another cent. But not this one. The 1952 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is no accident of laziness. It's a key to a treasure map that almost nobody knows exists. Because while billions were struck, only a handful carry the whispers of imperfection that turn copper into gold. Ask yourself, how many times have you handled change without looking? How many drawers, coffee cans, and dusty piggy banks sit untouched in your home right now? What if the one coin capable of rewriting your financial future is already in your possession? Collectors tell stories, some true, some half-myth. A man who found one in a forgotten cigar box at his grandfather's estate. A woman who almost spent hers on a cup of coffee, only to later discover its shocking value. Lives altered in an instant, not by lottery tickets, not by Wall Street, but by a coin worth hundreds of thousands. And here's the unsettling truth. The mint never meant for you to notice. They buried their mistakes under billions of other coins. They relied on your eyes glancing past, on your belief that a penny is just a penny. But you're still here, listening, because deep down you know, ordinary things sometimes hide extraordinary wealth. So how do you recognize the treasure if it lands in your hands? First, hold the coin close. You're looking at Lincoln's solemn face on the obverse, the wheat stalks of America's breadbasket on the reverse. But here's the secret: where the mint mark should be, there is nothing. No tiny D for Denver. No subtle S for San Francisco. Just emptiness, as though the mint itself tried to erase the clue. But don't stop there. Condition matters. The sharper the strike, the fewer the scratches, the closer you are to holding history's mistake in its purest form. Many coins lived rough lives in circulation, tossed in pockets, scraped in machines. The rarest survive almost untouched, and those are the ones that sell for staggering sums at auction. Imagine sliding such a coin across the table to an appraiser. Their eyes widen, their voice cracks, they make a phone call, and suddenly you are no longer just someone with loose change. You are the person who uncovered a piece of America's forgotten treasure. Think about the freedom that would bring. The debts erased, the home secured, the future unlocked, not by working another 10 years, but by spotting what others ignored. This isn't about luck. It's about awareness. It's about daring to look closely at what everyone else overlooks. Because right now, while you're hearing my voice, one of these coins may be sitting quietly in a jar, in a dresser, in the folds of an old wallet, waiting. And if you don't check, someone else will. So tonight, when the world is quiet, gather your coins. Take out a magnifying glass if you have one. Look for the year 1952. Look for Lincoln's face, for the wheat ears, and then look closely where the mint mark should be. If you see nothing at all, if the space is blank, you might just be holding a key to freedom. This coin, this unassuming copper cent, has reached auction values as high as $952,000. Nearly $1 million for a penny no one believed could matter. And the most haunting thought of all? Could be sitting in someone's pocket right now. Imagine this. You're standing in line at the grocery store, fumbling for change, and without a thought you hand over a penny so common you'd never give it a second glance. But what if I told you that tiny coin, dull, scratched, and brown with time, could secretly be worth more than most people make in a lifetime? Tonight, I'm going to show you a coin that hides in plain sight, the 1953 Lincoln penny with the D mint mark. And by the end of the story, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. Let's rewind to 1953. The country was just coming out of the shadow of war. Eisenhower was in the White House, families were buying their first televisions, and the penny, America's smallest coin, was still struck from pure copper. Millions rolled out of the Denver Mint that year, hot off the presses, glowing like little suns. But within that mountain of ordinary pennies, something went wrong. Something the Mint never intended. A flaw, a mistake, a secret. Some of those coins were struck with doubled designs. Some had weak strikes. Some even carried tiny die cracks that made them unique. And a few, so few that experts debate their very existence, were pressed with errors so dramatic they've become legends whispered among collectors. Imagine, the wrong die, the wrong strike, a human hand slipping for just a second, and a coin was born that was never meant to survive. Now here's the part that makes my heart race. These coins didn't vanish into locked vaults. They went into circulation, into cash registers, into piggy banks, into the hands of kids who bought bubblegum on hot summer afternoons. And today, decades later, they might be sitting right under your nose, tucked away in a coffee tin, or gathering dust in a drawer you haven't opened in years. But let me ask you this. What if you already had one of these coins, and you let it slip through your fingers? What if you sold it for $1, not knowing it was a fortune? That's the fear that keeps collectors awake at night. Because here's the truth. People do it every single day. There's a story that still gives me chills. A man in the Midwest sold off an old jar of pennies he thought were worthless. A dealer cracked open that jar, sifted through them, and out slid a 1953 D penny with a double die obverse. That coin later sold for thousands. The man who let it go, he never forgave himself. This is why knowledge is power. And right now, I'm handing you the map. If you're holding a 1953 penny, here's what you need to do. First, flip it. Look for the tiny D below the date. That D means it was struck in Denver. Next, hold it under bright light. Do the letters on Liberty or In God We Trust look doubled, stretched, like they're casting a shadow? That's a double die. Do the wheat stalks on the reverse have extra thickness, as if the engraver pressed twice? That's another sign. Some coins will show die cracks, tiny raised lines running across the surface like lightning bolts. And those too can send the value soaring. Now, don't make the fatal mistake. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. A single wipe can destroy its value. Collectors crave originality. Even if your penny looks dirty, let it be. That dirt could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's where it gets even wilder. A pristine, uncirculated 1953 D penny with dramatic doubling has been valued at close to $1 million. Yes, you heard me right. 1 cent worth nearly $1 million. And it could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to recognize it. So tonight, I want you to do one thing. Go grab your jars, your drawers, your childhood piggy banks. Dump those pennies on the table and start looking. Because history has a way of rewarding those who pay attention. And because stories like this don't belong to museums, they belong to ordinary people who refuse to miss their chance. The 1953 D penny is not just copper. It's a reminder that fortune favors the curious. That hidden treasures aren't always buried underground. They're hiding in your pocket. And one of them, right now, could change your life forever. Because today, this humble penny, this 1953 D Lincoln wheat cent, can be worth up to $953,000. And it might just be waiting for you. Imagine holding a penny that looks just like any other. Dull copper, worn edges, a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. But hidden beneath its ordinary face lies the power to rewrite a life. This is not myth. This is the 1954 Lincoln penny with the tiny letter D under its date. A coin struck in Denver, overlooked for decades, now whispering secrets only the sharpest eyes will ever uncover. Why this penny? Why this year? The answer begins in a storm of history most collectors have long forgotten. It was the mid-1950s. America was roaring with post-war growth. The mint was working around the clock, churning out billions of coins to feed a booming economy. In that rush, something happened. Something that would leave a fingerprint of rarity on certain coins that slipped quietly into circulation. The Denver Mint, known for precision, was overwhelmed. Dies were overused, mistakes went unchecked, and a handful of pennies from 1954 were struck with peculiar flaws that only the most obsessive numismatists dared to chase. A doubled image on Lincoln's portrait, a ghostly shadow in the lettering, edges that tell two stories at once. To the untrained eye, worthless copper. To the collector who knows, a golden ticket. And here's the twist that makes the story human. One man, an electrician from Kansas, once found one of these very pennies mixed in with a jar of change he'd nearly taken to the bank. He almost gave it away for a single cent. Instead, curiosity stopped him. He leaned closer, noticed the strange doubling in the date, and sent it to be graded. That single coin sold for more than he earned in 3 years of hard labor. His life changed because he dared to look closer. How many people since then have let this treasure slip through their fingers? How many 1954 D pennies were tossed in a cash register, jingled in a child's piggy bank, or spent on candy bars without a second thought? The thought should send a chill down your spine. But here's where it gets urgent. You can still find them. They surface in collections, in inherited boxes of coins, in coffee cans hidden at the back of attics. Every one of them waiting for someone with eyes sharp enough and the courage bold enough to notice. Now let me whisper the key. If you ever hold a 1954 penny with the D under the date, stop. Don't spend it. Tilt it under the light. Look at the date and the letters. A double die will show a strange, almost ghostly outline. Like the coin itself carries two versions of history at once. The difference between a common penny worth 1 cent and a rare 1954 D double die worth hundreds of thousands is only a fraction of a millimeter, and the patience to notice. And when you think about that, isn't it haunting? How much of life's treasure is missed because we don't look closely enough? Do not make the mistake others have. Do not shrug and assume your pennies are ordinary, because right now, sealed in a safe, held in a drawer, or jingling in someone's pocket, lies a coin that experts value at up to $954,000, nearly $1 million, for a penny that was almost invisible. Check your change. Check your jars. Check the boxes passed down from your parents and grandparents. Because the next time history whispers, it may not just be a story you hear. It may be your story to us. So let me ask you one last time. What would you do if a single penny in your hands could buy your freedom? Right now, the 1954 D Lincoln penny is worth up to $954,000, and it could be sitting in someone's pocket at this very moment. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, fumbling through change, ready to hand over a penny without a second thought. But what if that single coin, the most ordinary thing in your pocket, was secretly worth more than your car, more than your house, maybe even more than your entire retirement fund? What if that penny, dull and forgotten, held a secret that could rewrite your life? There is one coin that does exactly that. A coin born in 1955, almost invisible to the untrained eye, a Lincoln cent with no mint mark. A penny so powerful that collectors whisper its name like a myth. And yet, it's real, and it's still out there. The story of this penny begins in silence, deep inside the mint, during a night when machines misfired, mistakes collided, and history was stamped into copper. Thousands of coins were struck with a doubling error so dramatic, so unmistakable, that it looked like Lincoln's face was echoing across the metal. And yet, many of these coins slipped into circulation like nothing had happened.
No alarms, no recalls.
Just pennies quietly carrying a secret. Some people found them by accident. A shopkeeper in the 1950s opened a roll of fresh coins and froze when he saw letters doubled, Lincoln's date almost shouting at him. Rumors spread. Whispers of easy riches reached kitchen tables, barber shops, gas stations. Ordinary Americans checked their change with pounding hearts. But for every person who found one, 100 never noticed and spent them away, unknowingly giving up a fortune. Now here's where the story gets personal. Imagine your grandfather back in 1955, pulling a handful of change from his pocket, maybe tossing a penny into a jar, maybe slipping it into a drawer and forgetting it. Decades pass. That penny waits in silence. And tonight, it could still be there, resting in an old cigar box, hidden in your attic, waiting for someone like you to finally discover it. But here's the twist. Not every 1955 penny is valuable. The mint marked coins with letters, D for Denver, S for San Francisco. But the one you want has no mark at all. No mint letter beneath the date. Just the clean, bare year 1955, doubled across the copper like a ghostly shadow. That's the key. That's the treasure. Think about this. What if right now you already own one of these without realizing it? What if it's hiding in that jar of pennies you haven't touched in years? Most people laugh at the idea. Most people shrug and walk away. And that's why most people miss out. Let me tell you what happens when you don't miss out. A collector once found this coin, tucked inside a dusty roll of pennies bought for face value. He sold it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine the shock of handing over 1 cent and receiving enough to pay off your house, send your kids to college, or walk into retirement without a single worry. That's not a dream. That's the reality of this penny. So here's what you need to know if you think you've found one. First, look at the date, 1955. If the numbers look doubled, bold, almost like they're stamped twice, your heart should start racing. Second, check for a mint mark. If there's a D or an S under the date, it's not the one. But if there's nothing, if the space is bare, you might be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Right now, this exact coin in top condition has sold for as much as $954,000. Nearly $1 million. For a penny. A coin you could spend on a gumball without ever knowing the truth. Don't let that happen. Don't spend it. Don't sell it too soon. Don't ignore it. Tonight, when this video ends, go check your coins. Check your jars, your drawers, your boxes. Because history is still hiding, waiting to be found. And one day, someone will uncover the penny that changes their life forever. It could be you. And that 1955 Lincoln penny with no mint mark could be your $1 million secret. Imagine this. You hand over a single penny at a gas station, thinking nothing of it. But what if that penny wasn't worth 1 cent? What if it was worth a small fortune, enough to rewrite your life in an instant? Tonight, I'm going to tell you about a coin that doesn't just exist in dusty museum cases. It exists in drawers, in old coffee cans, in the hands of people who have no idea they're holding a piece of pure treasure. I'm talking about the 1956 Lincoln penny, struck with a D mint mark. A coin that whispers a secret so few have truly heard. But here's the truth no one tells you. Not every 1956 D penny is the same. Most are ordinary, millions rolled off the presses. But hidden in that sea of copper, some emerged different. Wrong. Mistaken. The mint, that bastion of perfection, made errors. Errors so rare, so dramatic, that a simple cent became a golden key. Imagine a double die, where Lincoln's face almost haunts itself. Imagine a misstruck mint mark, whispering betrayal from a machine that was supposed to be flawless. These are not accidents. They are anomalies, freak sparks in history that transform a coin into legend. Think about it. The year was 1956. America was shifting. Elvis was on the radio. Families were buying their first televisions. And in Denver, at the mint, coins were spilling into the world. Copper-clad witnesses to an era of innocence. But in that flood, a handful emerged with imperfections the eye can barely grasp at first glance. To most, they looked normal. But to the trained eye, they became life-changers. One man, decades later, pulled such a penny from an old roll. What he thought was junk pocket change turned into a discovery worth more than his yearly salary. That moment, when he realized what he held, it's the reason collectors don't just search for coins. They chase miracles. But let me ask you, how many pennies have slipped through your hands without a second thought? How many drawers in your house hide forgotten change? And what if one of them, right now, holds a 1956D with the doubling on the date, or a repunched mint mark, or a strike so crisp it takes your breath away? Would you even notice? Or would you spend it away, losing a treasure worth hundreds of thousands, maybe close to 1 million, without ever knowing? I want you to feel this in your bones. This coin is not just about copper. It's about possibility. It's about the ordinary turning extraordinary. Every time you hold a penny, you're holding a lottery ticket disguised as metal. But unlike the lottery, the odds here are hidden, secret, and waiting for those who know where to look. And tonight, you're one of the few who do. So how do you spot it? First, don't just glance at the date, study it. Look for doubling on the numbers, a ghost-like second strike that tells you the die slipped. Look at the D-mint mark pressed into the coin by hand in those days. If you see it doubled, shifted, or repunched, your hands may start to shake, because you've just uncovered one of the rarest quirks in American coinage. Condition matters too. A penny uncirculated, sharp as the day it was born, can change its value from a curiosity into a life-altering prize. Don't make the mistake of assuming it's worthless because it's old and common. Don't make the mistake of rushing to sell it without knowing its true power. Every collector's nightmare is letting go of a coin for pennies on the dollar, only to watch it later auction for hundreds of thousands. That moment of regret has broken people. Don't let it be your story. Because here's the ultimate truth. Right now, a 1956D Lincoln penny in the right condition with the right error has sold for up to $956,000. That's almost $1 million, hiding in a coin most people would overlook. So the next time you see a penny, don't scoff. Don't ignore it. Check it. Search it. Because the story of the 1956D isn't just about money. It's about the chance that the smallest thing in your life could become the spark that changes everything. And if you want to uncover more secrets like this, more treasures hiding in plain sight, make sure you subscribe. Because somewhere out there, the next coin waiting to change your life might already be in your pocket. What if I told you that one of the most ordinary, overlooked coins in America, a single copper penny from 1957, could quietly hold the power to rewrite your life? I'm not talking about a dusty old collector's trophy locked away in a museum. I mean a coin that could be hiding right now in a forgotten drawer, in your father's cigar box, or even jingling unnoticed in your pocket. And here's the chilling truth. Most people who find one spend it before they realize what slipped through their fingers. The 1957 penny. At first glance, it's nothing. Brown, scratched, the kind of coin you wouldn't even stoop to pick up off the sidewalk. But here's the secret the mint never wanted you to know. Some of these coins, especially the ones stamped in Denver with that little D mint mark, carry a mistake so small, so buried in plain sight, that only the sharpest eyes catch it. And when they do, the ordinary transforms into a fortune. But how did this happen? Let's rewind. The year is 1957. Eisenhower is president. America is humming with optimism. Rock and roll is electrifying the air. And the U.S. Mint is cranking out Lincoln cents by the billions. Copper coins were everywhere, bright, fresh, and cheap. But in that storm of mass production, the Denver Mint let through errors that would become legends. Some were double-struck. Some bore weak imprints. Some carried doubling so faint, even experienced eyes would miss it under normal light. These weren't just mistakes. They were unintentional signatures. Keys to a treasure hiding in plain sight. And here's where the story twists. For decades, collectors shrugged off the 1957 D penny. Too common, they said. Too ordinary. But then came the whispers. Rumors of specific coins fetching staggering sums. Why? Because in a sea of billions, the flawed few became miracles. One man in the Midwest discovered his grandfather's stash of pennies, most of them worthless, except for a single 1957 D double die obverse. That one coin paid off his home mortgage. Imagine the heartbreak if he had tossed it aside with the rest. So ask yourself, how many families across America have unknowingly cashed in a treasure at face value? How many times has history been lost at the grocery store register? Now listen closely, because this is where the story becomes personal. If you ever hold a 1957 penny with the Denver D mint mark, tilt it under the light. Look for doubling on the date. especially the number 7. Examine the letters in Liberty or I in God We Trust. A true double die shows ghost-like shadows, a doubling so distinct it almost feels like the coin is whispering its secret to you. Another clue, watch the rim. Some rare 1957 D cents have been struck off-center, giving them a warped, eerie look that collectors crave. Don't trust quick glances. Don't assume a dealer's shrug means it's worthless. Ordinary eyes miss extraordinary details every single day. And when they do, they walk away from life-changing wealth. Because right now, in today's market, the most extraordinary 1957 D pennies, those rare double dies, pristine mint states, or bizarre errors, are valued at up to $957,000. That's nearly $1 million. For a coin you might already owe W&So, I'll leave you with this. Tonight, when the house is quiet, and your drawers and jars of coins are just sitting there in the dark, go look. Because wealth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through a penny no one else bothered to notice. And if you do find one, don't just hold history in your hand, let it change your future. Right now, a single 1957 D Lincoln penny is worth up to $957,000, and it could be waiting for you. Imagine this. You hand over a penny without a second thought. And in that moment, you lose nearly $1 million. That's not a nightmare. That's reality. And it's happened before. There is a coin so rare, so easily overlooked, that thousands of Americans have probably spent it away, never knowing what slipped through their fingers. It's the 1967 Lincoln penny. And hidden among them lies a version that can shatter the boundaries of ordinary life. But here's the catch. This coin carries a secret no one was supposed to see. A D mint mark where history insists there should be none. The United States Mint in 1967 was under extraordinary pressure. The coin shortage of the mid-60s had spiraled into national panic. People were hoarding coins, collectors were draining circulation, and the mint fought back. Their solution:
eliminate mint marks.
Erase identity. Make every coin look the same so collectors had no reason to stash them away. From 1965 through 1967, officially, no coin struck in America was supposed to carry a mint mark. Not one dot, and yet, a whisper slipped out of Denver. A few 1967 Lincoln pennies appeared with a small, defiant D carved under the date. A scar of rebellion against the mint's order. A mistake that should not exist. Imagine the drama behind that moment. A mint worker reaching for the wrong die. A small slip of human error. And suddenly, history changes forever. A coin is born that lives outside the rules. A forbidden coin. Most people will never notice. To the casual eye, it's just another penny, brown and ordinary. But to the trained eye, it's a financial earthquake. And here's the terrifying part. The mint will never admit it. In their records, this coin doesn't exist. Which means every example that survives in the wild is a fugitive, an outlaw artifact. That's why collectors pay not in pennies, but in fortunes. One man in Texas once stumbled across one in an old family jar. At first glance, it looked worthless. But under a magnifying glass, the tiny D shone back at him, mocking history. He sold it quietly and walked away with a 6-figure windfall. A single coin had rewritten his family's future. Pause for a second. What if that same coin is sitting in your drawer right now? What if it's in that dusty coffee can of change you've ignored for years? What if, without knowing it, you already hold the key to freedom in the palm of your hand? Here's how you find it. First, pick up every 1967 penny you can get your hands on. Don't ignore the dirty ones. Don't skip the scratched ones. Look directly under the date. If you see even the faintest trace of a D, stop. Do not spend it. Do not take it to the bank. You may be staring at one of the rarest minting errors in American history. But beware, counterfeits exist. Some people add fake mint marks to ordinary coins. That's why you need magnification. A real Denver mint mark is sharp, consistent, and part of the coin itself. Not scratched on, not glued, not sloppy. If you're lucky enough to find one, get it authenticated. A certified grading service can turn a penny into a passport to wealth. In pristine condition, this coin has commanded values soaring near $1 million. That's the life-changing power hidden in plain sight. Every day, someone unknowingly spends away their fortune. The only question is, will you be the one who notices what they missed? Because right now, the 1967 Lincoln penny with a D-mint mark is worth up to $967,000. And it could be hiding in your pocket at this very moment.